welcome to Geek Bomb. What up? I am Boss Bomb Maude Garrett.
And I'm Amy Cassandra Martinez.
And we are going to be chatting about Captain Marvel, full spoiler review. We are getting nitty and gritty with this one. We're going to be telling you all of our thoughts, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the spectacularly good looking. Where do we want to start?
Plot-wise?
Let's do it. Do you think that the exposition made sense at the beginning of the film?
Yes, I do. So I know that there's a lot of criticisms with how it was done because you're supposed to not necessarily feel like you're Brie Larson, Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, but you kind of have to just identify with her a little bit. And I feel like they did a good job because she's trying to figure out who the heck she is, really. Yes. As people that don't know the comics, we're also trying to figure out, who are you really? What's your origin story? Where do you come from? What are you doing? What's your whole life?
Yeah.
And I think they did do a good job.
They did somewhat of a job. You're realizing not necessarily that she's human.
Right.
That kind of was danced around. Because at this stage, she's not Carol Danvers. She's still Veers. And so you're kind of going, well, how did she get here? Why does she have the powers? I assumed that everyone had the powers. But hers were just more heightened, or why did they give her powers? That wasn't necessarily clear. I'll tell you what I did like, the dynamic between Jude Law and Brie Larson during those fight sequences and those moments. That is what I got. I was like, you're a warrior, you're training, you're an elite squad force. This is what Suicide Squad should have been. And I got a really big Green Lantern feel about it because they were some human looking, but a lot of them very much alien races. And I was like, this is what Green Lantern should have been.
It also kind of gave me Star Wars vibes. You're walking around, with humans and different kind of creatures. And you're like, what's up? This is normal.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I wasn't taken out of it so much. I understood that the big deity, the ruler of the lands, took the shape of the thing that you admired the most.
Yes.
I dug that. I thought that was quite clear.
That was great. And, as we find out exactly who Annette Bening really is to her, I thought that was interesting. But I also kind of thought she was the bad guy at the beginning, which I don't know if you got that.
The deity was the bad guy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I got. I think they kind of still are because, they were navigating, they're in control of the mission.
Ooh,
they're all not great.
But she did try to, kind of get out of it in a way, kind of try and help him.
No, they were suppressing her powers. They're all bad. Everyone on Kree are bad. But this is the bait and switch. This is the smoke and mirrors.
That really threw me off.
Two big twists here. The Skrulls were not the bad guys. That they're actually good and that they're just roaming nomads that are being chased down because they have an ability that can be perceived as quite dangerous.
Yes.
But they're not dangerous people. And the fact that...
the Kree.
Yeah.
Are actually the bad guys.
Yeah, so that was pivoted and I really liked that. In the comic books, though, the Skrulls are bad. So everyone's kind of going in blind with that and I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, and also Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you're kind of after watching seasons and seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you're kind of trained to think one way.
They're the good guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for this movie to be you thought, that really threw me off.
Well, it's still previous. Like I said, this is what it is before all of the extraterrestrial side of things come into it. This is the birth of Avengers. This is the first time that they've had something a little bit not right. That moment felt very Men in Black for me. They're all in the suits. There's that alien where she's conversing and she looks a bit strange and it's so normal to her and it's kind of weird for everyone else.
Yeah.
That moment was cool. The fight sequences are cool. First act was slow.
I didn't think so.
Okay.
Because I was just kind of like Brie Larson. I was Veers. I was like...
Can I talk about this now?
Okay, go for it.
There were times when Brie Larson was delivering lines like it was a table read. I believe there was one line, I could be getting it completely wrong, but it's the example that I've been using, and that is, you've started something, now I have to finish it. And it's you're a dang superhero in a Marvel movie. I need a little bit more than that. It didn't come from the soul. I felt like she didn't necessarily want to be there.
Like Brie?
I think Brie's going to be in her best element when she's shining from within, when it's an indie movie. She won the Academy Award. She got all these offers. There's a lot of bank happening. And I feel like there's some sort of conflict happening in her soul where she's this is not necessarily what I wanted. And I think that's resonating on screen. That's my theory. There was some really problematic acting from her. And it was amplified by the fact that Jude Law crushed it. Oh. Sam L. Jackson's just so in his element. And bloody Ben Mendelsohn was so good.
See, I agree. I think everyone was such freaking rock stars around her that maybe it did feel like that. But I also think her character is supposed to kind of feel lost. So,
I get that. But you also, to feel lost but earnest and driven and lost but determined. She was just lost, man.
I don't know. I felt it, and the fact that we got young kid Carol Danvers, and then we got when she's in training, basic training, and then we see her now. I don't know. I feel like I was already like, girl, you got this. Let's figure out where you come from, what's going on. But I am gonna see it again, and I will kind of pay more attention to her. I think it was also
line delivery.
They
wrote humor for her.
Oh, yeah. There was a few moments where I was like, okay, let's slow down on the cheese. Calm down.
Yeah.
But as a whole, I think with everything, you got the 90s aspects. You got great fight sequences. You got people that we already know and love. The de-aging.
Yes. Oh my gosh, the fact that Samuel Jackson was de-aged the entire film, and he's in like 90% of this movie. And it wasn't detracting. It didn't detract from the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that previously, when we have seen it happen with Hank Pym in Ant-Man, and we've also seen it with Robert Downey Jr., that was like, wow, I'm impressed by it, but it's so obviously digitally enhanced and affected. With Samuel, I didn't...
Not with him, but with Coulson, the first time I saw him, I was a little bit like, okay. Oh. Yeah. And then you get used to it, and then there's certain kinds of turns where you're like, that's not Coulson. And I was like, I knew it because you look different. I think they did a really good job making it feel like it was in the 90s. And, we've got the pagers here and there, but no obnoxious cell phones all over the place.
Yeah, good point.
The blockbuster scene, I know that we saw it in the trailer. We love that.
There's a moment when the Skrull are coming out of the ocean, and it was just like, well, that's just straight Point Break.
It was beautiful.
It was, but I could see them kind of taking from iconic 90s movies, like Point Break, like Men in Black. I don't know, there was just like a series like Top Gun, but that's in the 80s as well.
Goose?
Goose the cat.
You didn't feel anything for Goose?
I liked Goose when it wasn't a cat.
That actually really grossed me out. I was like, oh.
I loved that. That part I was like, see, this is the cat I would want to. Let's also talk about when the moment Ben Mendelsohn does change his character, because it starts off very stern.
Mm-hmm.
Another moment that I thought was very representative of a different film was Ready Player One. So this is when there was a futuristic look. Ben Mendelsohn's in his suit, and I was like, good Lord, he's exactly the same character, that antagonist that we know and love from Ready Player One. And I was like, we've seen him only do this character.
I was worried about it too.
I was like, really? Again, guys? And then you kind of just see about halfway through the movie, it's like a veil is lifted, and he's just being so personable and relatable and funny and almost dismissive with like how he's communicating. And instantly you're like, why do I really like this guy?
Well, and it was so natural, even with all of the makeup.
Yeah.
You're like, holy crap, you're acting your face off.
But he acted his face on. Mendo was like my number one for this movie. He was great. And Jude Law was really good too.
Jude Law. I could have used more Gemma Chan. Feel like they just kind of threw her in there and we're like, where are you, girl?
I actually got really distracted when I saw her, and I tweeted about this, and some people didn't agree with me because you haven't seen the film yet. Gemma Chan in this movie as a sniper looked exactly like Widowmaker, the sniper from Overwatch, which is a video game character. I thought that she would play the most perfect Widowmaker, and I kind of got lost in those moments. But you're right, we have this team of elite soldiers who were so fantastic, and they've got great banter. Like, we see their chemistry at the beginning. Yeah. And then we just don't really have it again.
We could have used a little bit more of a through line, because then you're like, what happened to you guys?
They sandwiched it. They topped and tailed it, and then in the middle it's like...
They kind of forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as learning more about Carol's past, I thought they did a really good job. When she's looking through the photo album, I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. You had a whole life here. I love it. I think with a movie, if I'm emotionally connected to it, I'm already like, okay, what else are you going to do? And I'm so fully invested.
Yes.
That's really high up there for me in a movie.
Can I also give a shout out to Lashana? My goodness, she was sensational in it. And I wonder if some people are going to find the fact that these young-ish women have this life as a fighter pilot. I never kind of like felt that I was taken out of the moment with those two. The only thing was like there looked like to be a considerable age difference between Carol and between Brie and Lashana.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't get that.
It must be the haircut.
The haircut. Yeah.
That's like instantly 10 years on it. And she's got, a young daughter who's about 10 years old as well.
Yeah.
But those moments, like she brought such heart and soul to the character. You really got what she was juggling as a single mum and a fighter pilot for the Air Force. But for me, I think she was sensational, and all of those moments were really, really great.
I think that's what made it whole. I think if you took out that entire section, which like that wouldn't be the movie, I think it would have lost part of it. Like, part of the heart, you know?
But I'm telling you, it's everyone else providing the heart. So acting as a whole, really great. Not so much with Brie Larson personally. Also, I had a conversation with a fellow journalist who made a really, really great point. And she was like, this is supposed to be Captain Marvel's movie, but it was shared the entire time with Nick Fury. Was the writing lending into the fact that maybe Marvel audiences weren't ready to have a female superhero-led movie? Or did rewrites have to be made because they didn't think that Brie Larson was able to carry the solo movie?
Oh, crap.
So this was like quite a conversation, because when you think about it, like Nick Fury has just as much airtime as Captain Marvel throughout the middle of the movie. Like, they become a duo quite quickly. They've shared a lot together, and you do learn a lot about Nick Fury. I mean, you find out about the eye. Can I just say that finding out about Nick Fury's eye was the cat scratch, not cat scratch, was on par as the gut defeat that I felt when Han Solo's name was because he was by himself. They are the same kind of reveal, where it's like, I would rather not know and have it remain a mystery. That I looked up Nick Fury, how he got his eye damaged.
Yeah.
It was from a grenade.
I know. I feel like they cheated us.
Yeah, that
we
was
deserved more.
That was nap. And don't have them bond instantly, and he's so drawn to this cat, and they've got this thing going, and this cat holds the Tesseract, and everything's great, and then all of a sudden, it's like, it's not a hippogriff. It doesn't fight when you insult it, you know?
Exactly.
I don't know. That to me was not my favorite part of the movie.
As far as favorite parts of the movie go, I really do love the Skrulls. I love the family aspect of it. Heart and soul, guys.
As soon as the storyline flips, you kind of think back and you go into all the scenarios where you had this preconceived notion of who was in the right and who was wrong. You think that they're secretly hiding for betrayal and to ambush.
Yes.
And they're not. They're doing it to try and live and survive.
And that's so freaking trippy, because you think that they're the ones to not be trusted because they are, they can't really be trusted sometimes, because then you're like, are you really who I think you are? And then you don't know who to trust anymore.
And they are super ominous in the start. Like when they do become all of the point breakers. Why are all of these Skrulls that are obviously trying to live and survive, why have they sent out a number of them to just take down one of the Kree, even though they were part of the group, that doesn't necessarily seem like a threat? Why did they have to eliminate her?
I get it, because if it's someone that's just by themselves and you're like, the enemy, we got them. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah?
Good point. Another thing I want to discuss are Carol Danvers' powers. Like, for me, the analogy of I've been fighting with one arm behind my back is nowhere near to the scale of what we saw. Like, I could still hurt someone with a hand behind my back. You want to find it? No, I'm kidding. But for me, that seems like I've only been kind of disadvantaged at maybe like a 40 or 50%. I feel like before she had access to about 1 or 2% of her powers.
And it's also being manipulated by someone. It's
she had like the foggy block.
Exactly. And not knowing also the whole truth.
Yeah.
So when she finally gets to really unleash her powers,
she goes full on Super Saiyan. I like that.
I loved it. Yeah. I get kind of scared when you see lots of CGI and it's like, oh, here's the superhero.
There's
and
a few moments on the face when she's got the helmet on and it's very artificial.
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, when they're underwater, there was something that threw me off and I was like, oh, Harry Potter! And I was like, bring it back, Amy, bring it back. So, yeah, I mean, I think that when you've seen so many movies that are kind of like, referenced, then you kind of get sidetracked and it's a little bit difficult to come right back.
Right back.
When you see her keep getting up, when they do that nice little montage of her getting up, I was like, yes!
Also, at the beginning, I kind of wish, even though it could be seen as on the nose, when you had Jude Law's character just pounding into her to control her emotions, I remember hearing that and finding that quite problematic.
Yes.
It's like you're telling a woman to not have emotion, to control it. But then at the same time, a lot of women are seen as control freaks or wanting to be in control. So it's like, oh my God, we can't win. That payoff wasn't enough for how much they drilled it in at the start.
True.
Like for her to be like, I'm understanding that my emotions are a benefit and my emotions are the reason why. I wish it was like this was controlling her and he was like getting her to focus on like this fact that she was getting manually controlled. And I kind of wish that when that exploded, her emotions came back. That would explain a lot of bad acting. But for her to actually feel and to be like, oh my gosh, my emotions are who I am and this is so important. But in the end, she was just like, you can't tell me what to do anymore. That payoff wasn't strong enough for me.
We took a lot of time with her, like, oh, suppress your emotions. And then at the very end, it's like, wow, look, I'm a superhero. But that whole, like, evolution, the important part that makes her a superhero was rushed.
Agree. And do you, as a comic book fan, believe this surge of power, that she's that powerful because the Tesseract made an alien technology for an engine that exploded on her and she caught some of the damage when it exploded?
I mean, yeah, I think when she was fighting everyone, I was like, I mean, I know she's going to be okay. I know she's extremely powerful, but I was concerned. Not necessarily because of what she physically looked like. I mean, we've all been following her on Instagram. I know she's been working really hard.
9 months training.
Yeah, a lot. But I was still a little bit concerned. I mean, we see Thanos and we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Carol Danvers went into a ball, she could fit inside Thanos' glove.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're not saying that this is a perfect film by any stretch. It's super feel good. It tells the story. It's set in a time place that's not going to infringe too much of, you know, how we're going to have the end game. For me, I asked Brie Larson about when it was filmed, and she filmed Endgame first and then this, which I found to be a little bit disappointing as well, because she's had an entire movie to really understand her character and really, really get it.
Yeah.
And she felt way green in this. So that's the only apprehension I have going into Endgame.
Yeah, I mean, we did get a little tiny preview
of
that.
Yes,
so...
we talk about the 2 cutscenes.
Yeah.
The cat throwing it up. Skip it. Give me something juicier. Give me something better. I mean, maybe not juicy is not the best word, because there's a lot of juice coming out of that throat. But you know what I mean? Like, I want more.
That could have been part of the movie.
But the pager stuff. That, because we see Cap, we see Banner, we see them all, they've got the pager, they know it's important, they know Fury's attached to it somehow, and then she kind of walks in like badass. I'm like, okay, cool, let's hit the ground running with this. This is what I like.
It gets us excited for sure for Endgame.
Yeah.
Just next month.
Yeah, so what would you give Captain Marvel out of 10?
Out of 10, I would give it a 7.7.
I feel around the same, but you're much more into it than I am, so now I feel like I have to give it like a 7.
Okay, yeah.
It's not bad.
No.
That's a 3.5 out of 5.
I mean, it started off with a bang with, you know, the nice cameo that we saw with Stan. So I think that I was like, okay, let's do this. So,
and of course, shout out to Rob Kaczynski, who is, you guys definitely know from Fungeons and Flagons. He's played Dave, and he's also played, Smord. That's why I forgot it.
Oh, yeah.
Changed his name to Smord, didn't he? So make sure you watch Fungeons and Flagons. He does have a minor role, a bit of a cameo in there as well. He's the guy on the bike. He's like, maybe you should. Yeah, that's Rob Kaczynski.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
I know. So Fungeon's very own Rob is in Captain Marvel, so I'll give you a little bit of bonus out of 10 for that one. But there you go. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with us at all? Keep your opinions smart, intelligent, and not just coming from a really angry place. I'm really open to listening as long as you're not screaming. That's kind of like my only rule. So be cool in the comments. Really want to hear your thoughts. What did you give it out of 10 most importantly? And are you more excited for Endgame now that you've seen Captain Marvel? And also, you should check in that little bag. Pull out what's in that bag. Oh, who's this?
What?
Yes. As you know, I always collect all the swag because on Patreon I do fun giveaways to everyone who's involved. And that's going to be in an upcoming one. So make sure you get involved in Patreon as well. But that's it from us. If you do want to follow more from Amy, where can people find you online or on socials?
At Amy Cassandra MTZ.
And I'm at Maude Garrett. Follow Geek Bomb, follow and subscribe. Everything that we're doing, bunch more content. Thanks so much for joining us for this one. Bye, guys.